Imagine being inside your own apartment. You're completely undressed. You hear a knock at the door, but before you can even react, the handle starts turning. The door opens, and your landlord walks right in. You tell him it's not a good time. You tell him you are completely indecent. He doesn't care. He stays in your apartment for 20 minutes. This isn't a hypothetical nightmare scenario. This is exactly what happened to a renter in Laramie, Wyoming. And the most terrifying part isn't what the landlord did. It's what the judge said when she took him to court. Today, we're looking at a viral legal saga from Reddit posted by a user named WYAccountable. It exposes one of the most shocking legal loopholes in the country. Let's read the timeline.
Last year in Laramie, I experienced a terrifying violation of my privacy. I was in my apartment, undressed, when my landlord suddenly knocked and began unlocking the door. I yelled out that I was indecent and that it was not a good time to enter. He ignored me. He walked right in. I was trapped and terrified. He refused to leave and just stood there in my living space. This went on for 20 agonizing minutes. Finally, in a panic, I grabbed my phone and dialed 911 on speakerphone. Only when he heard the operator's voice did he finally turn around and walk out.
You would think the story ends there. The landlord left. The police were involved. But things were about to get significantly worse. Later that very same afternoon, after having to call the police just to get her landlord out of her apartment while she was naked, the tenant received a piece of paper slipped under her door. It was an official notice to vacate. The landlord was evicting her. The reason listed on the notice? He claimed she was, quote, no longer in alignment with the property. She was being kicked out of her home because she called the cops on a man who refused to leave while she was undressed. Naturally, she decided to fight this. She took the landlord to local court in Laramie to fight the eviction. Assuming that any judge in their right mind would look at the facts, a landlord entering without notice while a tenant was indecent and refusing to leave, and throw the eviction out as obvious, illegal retaliation. But when she got to court, she ran headfirst into a bizarre statutory reality. Most people rent an apartment. They assume there is a basic law protecting their privacy. In almost every state in the country, there is a statute on the books that explicitly says a landlord must give 24 or 48 hours of notice before entering your unit, unless it's an absolute emergency like a busted pipe. But Wyoming is different. Wyoming is one of the only states in the entire country that features absolutely no statutory notice requirement for landlord entry. There is no law in Wyoming that says your landlord has to give you a heads up before walking through your front door. Because the state law is completely silent on the issue, the only thing that governs your privacy is the specific language written in your lease agreement. And in Laramie, a college town with a notoriously tight housing market, most leases are boilerplate, take it or leave it documents drafted by the landlords. When the tenant, WYAccountable, got in front of the judge looked at the lease she had signed. The lease did not explicitly restrict the landlord's right to enter, nor did it demand a 24-hour notice. Because the lease didn't say the landlord couldn't enter, and because Wyoming law doesn't say the landlord has to give notice, the judge was forced to make a horrifying ruling. The landlord's highly intrusive entry was entirely legal under state law. The tenant was legally evicted. The story blew up on Reddit's real estate and legal advice forums. People from out of state were completely baffled. Many people assumed a 24-hour notice was a federal law, or just a basic universal right. They couldn't fathom that a state government would just leave it entirely up to whatever a landlord decides to copy-paste into a contract. The tenant used her horrible experience to launch a social media initiative to raise awareness. She highlighted the massive power imbalance in college towns, where 19-year-old students sign leases without realizing they are essentially signing away their bodily privacy to whoever owns the building. So, if you are ever thinking about renting an apartment in Wyoming, take this story as a massive warning sign. Read every single word of your lease. If it doesn't explicitly guarantee you a 24-hour notice before entry, demand that it be added in writing. Because if you don't, and your landlord decides to walk in on you while you're undressed, the law might just take his side. If you want more crazy legal stories, hit that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments, does your state have a 24-hour notice law, or is it a see you in the next one?